I'll ask you guys. How do you say it? Ciola, I think is how it is. Is that site? Or maybe Ciola? We're going to go with Ciola. Yeah. I don't know what we said earlier, but Ciola sounds good. And if I change it during the story, we'll just stick with Ciola. Yeah. You know what I'm talking about. So there was a lady named Ciola, and that just sounds proper. That sounds nice. All right, let's do that again. There was a lady named Ciola, and she was an artist, and she didn't make much money at it, but she was good at doing it. And she was very busy in her life, but she would much rather be an artist full-time. In one of those moments in her life that she opened up one of the Art Council magazines in Montana, there happened to be an advertisement for an opportunity for up-and-coming artists to go into this residency program in New York City. This is great. She was excited. And then she finally looked down and she read the fine print where it said it cost $500. Now, the $500, when you think about it, is $500 for that residency program, but you also have to pay the airfare to get there. You have to pay for your meals. You have to pay for other things. And in her mind, she had already done the math and realized it's going to be over $2,500 for her to be able to do this. Then there was the other fine print that said all of this has to take place within 1 week from the ad that she read. So now she's on a timeline. So she said, you know what, can't come up with that much money that soon. Too good to pass up, though. She's like, I can't just let this thing go. So she decided that she's going to call him anyway. So she calls him up and says, hey, I would love to do this. This is my dream. I would love to come to New York. You know what? That all the majority, or I shouldn't say the majority, that's probably incorrect. A lot of artists who have made it successfully are from New York. And that's where they got their start. So she knew in her mind this was a great opportunity for her. So whenever she was talking to him on the phone, she said, I would just love to come there and be part of this residency program. I would love it. This is something that I would dream of, but I can't come up with the money in time. And then she goes, I'm in Montana, and this is my life story. And she said, I don't know what happened, but something happened on that phone call that made them do something that they say they never do. They extended her 50 days to come up with the money. 50 days. She said, this is great. How can I come up with the money for all of this to take place? And she said, you know what I'll do? This may seem impossible, but I'm going to sell 50 paintings in 50 days. So she had to go to work and start painting and coming up with ideas of great paintings that would sell right away. So she took her first one, beautiful, and she took it and she took a picture of it and she put it on Facebook. And as soon as it hit Facebook, one of her friends said sold, and it was for just I believe $35. So she got the first one sold. So she did another one, and she did another one, and then they would sell pretty quickly. After a while, she started getting hope in the fact that she might be able to do this. She may make this timeline of painting and then getting them out there and selling 50 in 50 days. And then on the 32nd painting, the pressure's been on her. This is the 32nd painting. She knows that her time is running out. She needs to continue what she's doing. Her mind is boggled, and the painting is ugly. And the more she tries to fix it, it's uglier. And the more she works on it, it's uglier. And she says, I just kept messing it up. I couldn't even get the visual of what I was doing. And she goes, there was so much pressure on me. I finally realized at that moment that I wasn't going to make it. There was no way that I was going to finish this one. And worse than that, now she's depressed. This sent her into a depression mode of not looking at her goal and what she wanted to accomplish, but looking at what a foolish artist she is. She can't even paint a painting that's beautiful. She looked at number 32 and she just said, you know what? Why am I going to a residency program where artists out of New York City come to life and they go big? And she goes, who am I? I'm from Montana. I'm a nobody. I said, you know what? I can't do this. At that time, she took that painting and she put it aside. And as all the fear came through her, just saying, what am I going to do now? I'm not an artist. That's what I like to do, but I'm not. You know, there's a place in our life that we do the same thing. The number one day that pastors quit the ministry, take a guess, what day is it? Number one day throughout history of pastors. Number one day that they resign. What day? Monday. Absolutely. All the things that happen on Sunday, the pastor comes to church and he hears everybody's complaints. Maybe, hey, you preached too long. Or, where were you going with that sermon today? Or, you know, I like that sermon, but you know, your kids were making a lot of noise in the back. You know, they were disturbing the church. You know, we as pastors hear everything. And the church body that speaks to us, even though, you know what, it's just a moment and they're gone, but for us it just sticks. Pastors, the number one day that pastors resign from the church is Monday. They wake up in the morning and the depression has set in overnight and they are done with it. They're frustrated with it. I mean, there's times that pastors have taken on so much that their marriages start falling apart. Their children, you've heard it. Pastors' children are the worst. Why? They see what goes on in a lot of the churches. And who's the one that everybody wants to get a pastor's kid to fail. So they say, hey, come on over here, try this, try that. Mondays are worst for pastors. Same thing with others. Whenever you go to work and you're doing everything that you can do, and then one thing changes at your job. One thing changes at your job. Maybe you didn't do something right. Maybe you didn't do it the way that it was supposed to be done. And everybody around knows about it, and they look at you, and from that moment, you can't do anything right. Man, that poor guy on the Alabama football team, number 99, has a leg that will kick a football so far but cannot get it in between the posts. But you know what makes it worse? Is he has the leg to be able to do it. But it's all the thoughts that's in his mind and the thousands of people that are around him looking for him to make that. And then once they are against him, he's against him. And then you look at what happens. You miss the next one and the next one and the next one. Poor guy. Whenever you see these families that they're always pointing their kids and say, you're no good, you're no good. You know what? They're never going to be any good if that's all they hear. You know what? We can rip people down with our words. We can speak to people down and they will continually believe that they are worthless because we implanted the seed in their mind. Our mind has a lot of control of what our abilities are. People talk to me a lot about, I'm a visionary and I don't go into details. I do details. I can do details. I should watch how I say this because people automatically want to jump on that and go, hey, you're not a detail guy. I can do details. I don't like to do details. And here's the reason for that. Whenever I see a vision, whenever I know that God has called us and we need to go all the way out there, that means that we have to go up and down hurdles and all kinds of things to get there. If I'm going to focus on how far we're going to go and what we have to do, and I have to think about the details to get there, I am going to be bummed out and depressed before we ever get to that thing. So I don't think about all this. I just know we need to get there. So as a visionary, you almost have to put the details aside till you really see clearly that vision. And then at some point, you need to step back and look at the details. That's why I love my brother and his wife and my wife and these that come together that can work details out a little better. That way I can keep focused on the vision, show them the vision, they see the vision, but they can work out the details and get depressed all they want to on how we're going to get there. But I can stay cheered up about it. It's great. Put it off on somebody else. But you know what? You can mentally look at your life and start looking at all the negativity in your life, and you will bring yourself down to where you do not feel like you are the person to be able to do it. Man, let me tell you, whenever I go to these pastor meetings and I stand there amongst all these men who can quote Bible scriptures like nobody's business, when they can tell me about their churches and how much they've done in fixing up their churches and all the things that's taken place in their church. And then you look at ours. Like, man, if I was smart enough, I'd be able to do what they're doing. If I really knew what I was doing, I'd be able to do like them. Whenever you go to your work and you see people, man, especially in sales and certain things in business where people are just moving up the chain and you're always at the same level, kind of like, man, what about these guys? I remember going to work one day. I used to be in the mortgage industry where we would do home loans for people who were buying real estate. And there was this one group of people. They drove the nicest cars, and I mean the nicest cars. They had a lot of money. And every day they had loans just going through like crazy. Now, I was happy if I got 1 or 2 loans a week. They were getting 5 to 10 a day. I mean, just cranking these things through in groups. I mean, it was a whole group of them that was doing this continually. And I would look at them and go, man, I want to be that. I want to be like them. I want to drive that nice car. I want to have those nice clothes. I want to have those nice shoes. Oh, wait, that's my wife. She would be saying that. Sometimes I get the whole shoe thing mixed up. But you know what? I would love to be like them. And as time went on, I used to go up to my processor because he processed loans for me, but he also processed for some of them. And I said, how do they do it? They go into these real estate offices or they go meet people, and somehow they bring these things in. How do they do it? He goes, I don't know. I guess they've just been doing it a long time. And then one day, I remember going to the front desk before I left, and I was turning in a loan application. I turned it in. So the front desk is what starts it, and then it hands it off to the processor, and it goes that direction. But I handed it in, then I was going to leave. I got all my paperwork done, and I went to turn in that paper, and now there was a glass doors. The glass doors are right here, and then the street. There's a sidewalk in the main street in Norwalk. That's where it was. Main Street, sidewalk, Main Street, glass doors, front desk. I turned in the paperwork and then looked, and there were 3 cars coming towards that glass door, all coming at the same time at high rates of speed. They all came and they all stopped right in front of those glass doors. 2 seconds to 3 seconds later, there were weapons all around this place with guys in black vests, helmets and masks on, forming through here like crazy. Everybody froze. And it was the FBI. They had swarmed this place. And I remember my nerves are shaking. I have no clue what's going on. All I know is these guys have the coolest looking weapons I've ever seen in my whole entire life. These are bad boys. But I'm like, that one could probably take me out in one shot. But I remember 2 specific things that happened beyond that. I remember that part too. But there's 2 things that really stepped out in my mind. For one, you cannot stop the U.S. mail. What's that whole snow, sleet, rain, and the FBI? I am not kidding you. There are FBI swarming this place. 3 FBI cars are right in front of the glass door. Men in bulletproof vest, the whole works. And all of a sudden, out of nowhere, comes this guy dressed in blue, wearing his post office hat, comes in there, comes to the front desk, hands the lady the mail, and then walks right back out like nothing was going on different. He didn't even notice. He did exactly what he did every single day. Handed the mail, said hello to her, and then walked out. The other thing that I noticed was that there's a lot of things going to happen right now. They are going around and handcuffing. You hear them. You hear him telling people to lay down on the floor, handcuffed, bringing out to the front, questioning. I mean, you hear all the commotion. And then in my little bubble right here, they came up to me, looked me straight in the eye, and said, "You're not one of them. You get to go." I like this. I moved gingerly towards the front door, moved out, and I went and got into my little old beat-up car, which I've never known to be so in love with until that very moment, because every one of those people that had those fancy cars and those nice suits and those big Rolex watches and those nice big gold rings, every one of them was being arrested. 3 of them got away, shot off to Mexico. It was known as the largest FBI federal debt scam at that time. These guys had been scamming on the FHA loans at that time. So big and taking so much money that's why they were so wealthy. That's why they had all these loans. It was such a scam racket. But boy, that eye-to-eye contact with that FBI agent looking at me, they must have known the face of every person that they were in there to get. Because they looked at me and said, "It's not you, you get to go." Yeah. You know, sometimes we don't see the whole picture. We don't see what God's doing in the background. We don't see why people are successful where they're at. We don't see what's really going on in their life. There's a lot of times that we take for granted about situations going on. Sometimes we look at people on the outside and think, "Oh, they got everything they want." The movie stars, we think, "Oh, they're so happy." And then you find out they've had 4 and 5 divorces. They're not happy people. They're going from divorce to divorce, looking for someone to make them happy. Whenever I heard the story of, how did we say her name? Ciola? Is that close? Ciola? All right, we'll stick with that again. Memory's not my best thing either. There was something that she came to the point to realize. Whenever she had her mind set up on doing these paintings and then raising money so that she could go to New York City and join this residency program for this time, to really get her name out there, so she, hopefully in hopes that she would no longer be an upcoming artist, but actually be an artist that people know. She said after number 32, she gave up hope. She went into depression a little bit, started thinking that she's not worthy. She's not as good as she thought. But she said, "You know what? I stopped and I thought about it." She said, "For all these years, all the things that I do, especially on this," she goes, "I kind of went out there and just did it." She goes, "When have I stopped and asked God? When have I stopped and asked God what He wanted with my life? When have I stopped and asked God if I'm going to be an artist? Will you help me be an artist? When have I taken the time to say, God, help me in this situation that I'm in and take me there? Well, biblically, it's all over the place. And here's one. In Luke 12:22, which is one of my favorite groups from 22 actually down to 30, but I'm going to read the 24. This is one of my favorite verses because if you've read my book or if you've heard my story, this is one of the verses God gave me to let me know that He's there with me and taking care of us as a ministry and as believers. Jesus said to His disciples, "For this reason, I say to you, do not worry about your life as to what you will eat, nor your body as to what you will put on. For life is more than food, and the body more than clothing. Consider the ravens." I almost said that wrong, didn't I? Consider the ravens, for they neither sow nor reap. They have no storeroom nor barn, and yet God feeds them. How much more valuable you are than the birds. Continue reading, and it talks about the grass and the trees. God takes care of all of these things. Why won't He take care of you? Why won't He take care of me? He's saying, I love you more than even all of this, and I take care of them. So why wouldn't I take care of you? Because I will. He tells us in His Word, He'll never leave us or forsake us. That's a promise from a God who does not lie. He cannot lie. So whenever we have these thoughts of, I'm not good enough, or I'm not going to be successful, you know what? That's the time that people hear, man, you hear me say it all the time. I'm not a good speaker, but God uses me anyway. You know why? Because I don't need to use my abilities. I need to use His abilities. And He's the one that makes it happen. No, I'm not a good speaker, but yet 800,000 people have heard me preach. Isn't that amazing? I could sit at home and say, you know what, I'm not a good speaker. I don't do these things well. I barely speak English well. But I don't do that because I know that God can use me the way I am. For anybody else that sits out there and they sit there and they go, oh, you know what, I'm not good enough. Maybe you're not. And that's the best place that you can be because you're not good enough, but there is a God who is good enough, and He will see you through. See, the thing of depending on yourself is totally human. We want to just depend on ourselves. We want to do the things that we're going to do and the way that we're going to do them. But that's depending on you. It's that one step that you take that leaves you out of the picture and says, God, I want to depend on you. All the things that took place in the Old Testament that were miraculous and powerful was when the person in the Old Testament depended on God. The miracles that happened in the New Testament were whenever the people that were doing the miracles through themselves. No, it's when they did them through Jesus Christ. They're powerful. The things that you do in your life will not be because you are good enough or you have special abilities. It's because God uses you. He works through you. And that's when they're miracles. But there's something that has to be brought to the light in your life if God's going to use you. If you are going to be a disciple of Jesus Christ and you are going to go out and do His will, and also in your own personal life, if you are seeking happiness and joy in your life, there's something that has to take place. Even if you have skills and you have knowledge and you have abilities of your own and you want to do them, you can do them all day long, but you will never be totally, completely satisfied and full of that happiness and joy that God gives you until you reach one particular place in life. And that is where you have placed God above everything in your life. See, she had placed art the highest part of her life. She realized that at this point. She realized that she had placed art so important in her life that it was way up here and God was down here somewhere. In our family lives, we do that a lot. We put our family time, all the family activities, getting the kids to sports and cheerleading and activities and running around, and we forget about God. He's still there. I mean, not all of us cut Him out. We just lower Him down somewhere. And until we put God in the first position, He is number one in our life, above all, we will never be completely satisfied and full of peace and love and joy and happiness. In Isaiah 42, it says, I am the Lord, this is my name. I will not give my glory to another, nor my praise to a graven image. You want a relationship with Christ. You want a relationship with the Most High God. You want happiness and joy in your life. Put Him at the first place in your life. Put Him above all. Make God the most important part of your life. And then go to Luke 12:22, where it says, if I take care of the birds and the trees and the grass and the flowers, I take care of them. He goes, and look at them. In just a few days, they're done. They come and go. It's toast. But you, I love you more. And I take care of them. And I'll take care of you. Isn't that a great promise? First Peter says, humble yourselves under the mighty hand of God, that He might exalt you at the proper time. Cast all your anxieties on Him. Cast all of your anxiety, cast all of your cares on Him. Why? He says, I don't like seeing you like a train wreck. I don't like seeing you down and depressed. I don't like seeing you lonely. Everything about you that is worrying you, stressing you out, making you so you're not who you really should be, cast that all onto me. He says, because I care for you. It doesn't say only cast the spiritual things onto Him. It doesn't say to cast only the little things that are important to Him and all these big things that are important to you. Leave. No, He says cast them all. That means your life. Cast it all onto Him, and He cares for you. Another place in the Bible it says, so He will give you rest. Because we have a burdened heart and we can't sleep at night. We wake up during the night just crying. It says He cares for us and He loves us. And He says, just take that. How do we cast them on Him? We say, God, this is bigger than me. I need to hand it over to you. Now, the word cast is like whenever they cast nets, they throw them out. That's why it's cool that Peter used that word cast. It's like casting. You actually take it and toss it. It's not like you just hand it over. You toss it, man. You just say, God, I can't take it anymore. You take it. Yeah, you're at that point. Because He cares for you. Whenever Ciola came to that point that she realized God was not first in her life. God was in her life. He just wasn't first. She said she pulled out all of her tools and everything that she needed. And she said, God, give me the inspiration. Show me what to do. And she began painting paintings, one after another after another. And not only did she meet the deadline, all of them sold, but she went to the residency program and then won achievement after achievement after achievement and had great success in her work as an artist because she invited God to be first in her life. And we can do all things through Christ. It's not we can do some things. It's not we can only do spiritual things. It's we can do all things through Christ Jesus, who strengthens us. I hope that each one of you today, no matter what situation you're in, no matter how much is burdening you down, no matter how you think about yourself, no matter how you think about the surroundings around you, that you don't take that and stop what you're doing for Christ. That it empowers you to say, look at all this around me. I understand that I can't do it, but I know a God who can handle all things, and He'll walk me straight through it. And the Bible teaches us that He will go through the fire with us. Hear that? It doesn't say He takes the fire away. It says He goes with us. It's not like He makes your road easy. He wants you to know He's going to go right through it with you, and that's you being protected by Him. And then as the Hebrews boys found out, they got on the other side, and not a hair on their body was burned. Because when God's protecting you, you'll be all right.